to give everyone that listens to this recording a good grasp of what it is your company can bring to the table. So thanks for being on the call.
No problem. Go ahead.
Can you start by telling a little bit about what it is that you're offering and why it's different or better than the competition, and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, I've been in the industry for about 14 years. I did traditional business for 10 of those years. We've been big in the high-risk realm of things for the last 4 years. We work with anybody when it comes to, anything high risk, Nutra. Majority of it's going to be e-commerce, just because you can target the whole country and or the world. So these are people that are selling over websites. Nutra is always going to be one of your top ones. And then we do a lot in the cannabis and its derivatives industries. And what I mean by that is just your CBD companies and your seed companies and different things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's a lot of that going on in the market right now. I've heard a lot of great things about that. So that's great that we're going to be able to offer that to our customers. So basically we're going to be able to offer them credit card processing on companies that we normally couldn't, correct?
Exactly. People a lot of the competition, what they're doing is they're masking what the merchants, let's just use cannabis and its derivatives as a whole. They mask what the merchant's business is. They put it under its own SIC code. They're essentially hiding it for that wave to crash, if you will. With us, the merchant's signing up for exactly who they want to be. If it's Steve's CBD company, he's signing up as Steve's CBD company. We're not hiding any of that stuff. That's one of the major advantages that you'll have with boarding accounts is the fact that we are letting these people sign up who they want to be as if they were just your traditional tire store, which nobody out there can do right now.
Right, and we've actually run into it quite a bit where our agents will bring us something that's a little too high risk for us and we can't set them up. So it's great to know that we're working with a company that's going to be able to provide us that service, and on top of that, be able to provide services for industries that normally can't even get credit card processing, period.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to help somebody out that hasn't been able to really get their head above water. I always ask merchants that are in these industries, did you ever think that, you getting credit card processing was going to be one of the toughest things for you in your business? The answer is always no. That's kind of the no-brainer. But unfortunately, with different laws and regulations and stuff that are out there, they scare people into thinking that they're never going to be able to process credit card transactions, which with us, you 100% can. If it's cannabis and its derivatives, you're going to be approved within, let's say 7 to 10 days at the very most. And then if it's Nutra and some of the other websites, some of the other e-commerce industries, travel, e-cigarettes, vape juices, all of those things, sometimes you're seeing a little bit longer, but that's typically about 10 to 14 days to get an approval for something like that. Again, I'm giving you worst case scenario, Anthony. We have some in high risk, volume is what dictates how fast the deal typically gets done. If I've got somebody who's doing $1 million a month and it's a CBD company, I'll get them up and processing later that day as long as they stay on and they do they stay diligent with their application. So,
can I back you up just a little bit? I just thought of a great question that a lot of our agents may not understand, and that is, what makes a company high risk?
I mean, essentially, it's just going to be majority of it's going to come from e-commerce, and what turns them into high risk is due to the fact that as an industry, from the patterns that we've seen over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they get a lot of chargebacks. And that can come in the form of trials. Here you're going to buy this first bottle for $4, but you're going to be signed up for another year of monthly bottles, and those are going to be $70 a piece. But then the customer, he doesn't read the fine print, and he goes through with the transaction, and all of a sudden he's getting these bottles, they're showing up, and he's not doing one chargeback, he's doing, the last 4 months of chargebacks. But we have tools that we implement with that. So we've got different tools, they're chargeback mitigation tools. So what they do is they see patterns, or they see there's a negative base that all major retailers that get chargebacks from, they dump their files into every single night of all the chargebacks they got. Well, what does that do? Those chargebacks almost blacklist that customer's card. And so therefore, if someone's went to Steve's CBD company and they tried to purchase 3 or 4 times on the website and it didn't go through, well, when they try to go to somebody else's site the next day, they're going to get shut down immediately. So we in a perfect world, the mitigation tools work, and they do 9 out of 10 times. But we also have human eyes that look over these transactions to make sure that you guys, or your merchants, I should say, are operating at their optimum levels.
So what is it that your company is doing differently that's making sure that these companies are not being shut down for credit card processing?
Honestly, it just comes from the relationships. It's from being in the industry for as long as we have. When it comes to the cannabis and whatnot, we're on the ground floor, and we have been. The green rush was started here, but outside of that, we've just keep immaculate books of business. When it comes to the cannabis side of things, the merchant gets its own customer service for its customers. So the merchant's going to have customer service directly from the bank, but when they have their descriptor, that merchant descriptor actually has an 800 number. So when one of their customers sees that and calls them, they get put into a customer service floor that after about 30 to 45 days, we've extracted enough data from the merchant's website and his transactions that we can implement it onto our customer service floor. That customer service floor can answer the phone and they can go, "Hello, Mr. Jefferson, how are you today?" They can contact them by name right when they pick up the phone. They know what they bought, when they bought it, where they bought it, quantities, everything that you would want to know. So that's how we run such an immaculate book of business. That's why we've never been shut down. We've been doing this for 2.5 years. When it comes to the Nutra and stuff and other industries out there, we just have stuff that we require them to use, and that's just other chargeback mitigation tools. So with them, we've gotten very good at what we do. Our expertise is showing the merchant. It starts off with showing the merchant what he has to do if he wants to have a feasible business and have a partnership with us. If that merchant doesn't want to make the changes that we need him to make, then we do not move forward. All in all, what happens, if they don't make those changes, it becomes a thorn in your side. If they make those changes, hopefully they're smart enough, or intelligent enough, I should say, of a business owner to go, "Look, it hasn't been working for me. I've been chasing my tail, jumping from merchant account to merchant account, and now as long as I make these changes, these guys can keep me, an awesome book of business, and we could diversify their portfolio over time." Everything has to make sense. And what I mean by that is very basic. It has to make sense. If the merchant wants to process $1 million a month, typically he's got to have $2 to $3 million a month in process, or in his bank account or his business bank account. The banks aren't in business to lose money. So they want to know that they're going to be covered, whether that be from his business or himself personally. That's what they want to know. With cannabis and whatnot, we've got an awful lot of money in a reserve that enables us to give these merchants, 99.9% of them, the amount of volume that they want out of the gate. Transactional sizes of $25,000 to start from day one, which nobody in the world is doing. And we are literally the only people that are doing it.
Yeah, thank you for that. That explained a lot. Can you, are there any businesses that we wouldn't be able to approach?
The only businesses that my partner and I don't like dealing with, and it's just because of the industry as a whole, is shady and they'll give you the heebie-jeebies, if you will, is just the adult industry. When it comes to the porn or adult websites or anything like that, I just stay away from them because most of the time, kind of discussing and or negotiating with those merchants, it just doesn't sit well with me. I've got a family, my partner's got a family, and that's just not something that we're interested in.
Okay, so other than that, everything seems to be fair game.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's great. What kind of, or I should say, can you walk me through how to approach a high-risk business? How would you approach a high-risk business?
So with your typical Nutra and whatnot, it's the way what we bring, our expertise is going to be showing them how to restructure their business, diversify their portfolio, and therefore enabling them to really focus on growing their business. There's going to be things that we request, like the chargeback mitigation tools and the different options that are out there. Mainly it's the mitigation tools, but it's coming in with the level of, look, I've done this for a while. We've had great success with it. As long as you're willing to change and go with our suggestions. It's anybody out there can sign a business up to let them process, have them run high chargebacks, and then essentially get them shut off. Well, you guys don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. Nobody in the world should want to do that. I want to know that I'm investing my time and efforts into a merchant that's also going to invest his time and efforts into creating a partnership, because if he's not making money, I'm not making money. I want all of his money. I don't want him, kind of giving me portions of his book, although that happens to start. People have been ran through the ringer. They don't feel comfortable with you. So what do at the beginning? They test you out to see what your solutions are like. Once they get that piece of comfort, then at that point, then they will move forward. And you typically, I'll tell them right on that phone call, look, when I prove myself to you, I want all your business. I'm going after all of your business. And that's any smart businessman would want to, test us out, do their due diligence, see how we process, see how things go on their side, and once they feel comfortable, then they move forward with us. When it comes to the CBD companies or cannabis industries as a whole, it's a very easy approach. We know you've been promised the world. We know you've had either your money frozen, shut off, and or been filled out maybe 20 different applications, never to hear back from a single person. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, good. Are you tired of doing that? Yeah. Okay. Here's the way my solution works. There's no obligations. It's a day-to-day agreement. You fill it out along with the general application. At that point, it's submitted to us. And what we do is we send out an app directly from the bank. That application is electronically filled out. You're going to attach a lot of the documents you sent in to, first of all, get it triggered out. Once you fill that out, you get two more documents through DocuSigns. Those are individual pages. One's the policy and procedure. The other one is the terms. Once you DocuSign both of those and I receive them, you receive credentials within 24 to 48 hours. So as long as you stay on those applications and you get those back in a timely manner, you do get up in literally the same day sometimes, Anthony.
Wow, that's really fast. So is there marketing available?
So you guys can make your marketing. We have a little piece, but to give you, I don't send anything out. I give my guys, pricing, if you will, and you guys just use that and put it into pieces that you show us, and once we approve them, you're good to go.
Okay. So can you maybe tell me what those rates are? Talk about the rates and the fees.
Yeah, so I mean, 8.5 and 50 cents a transaction comes out of the gate. They have a deposit fee of $100. That happens. You start out 2 weeks in the rears, and then from there you're getting your deposits every Thursday. You get a notification of what they're going to be on Wednesday, and they're in your business your bank account by 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. There's a 5% reserve for the first 90 days. Other than that, we don't have any more of what we call the junk fees, and that's going to be the hardest part to transition with the traditional business you're used to writing into this high-risk stuff. Is there's none of the PCI annual, all of the other fees that you're used to seeing. So,
right.
That's going to be kind of the biggest transition piece for you guys.
Okay. So you said 8.5% and 50 cents a transaction. So,
yep.
Well, can you explain? If somebody asks, well, why are the rates so high, what would you say to someone that asked that question?
Unfortunately, in your industry, this is standard. And the 8.5 to 50 cents is typically for the cannabis industry and its derivatives. You've got other industries like your Nutras and whatnot. With those accounts are typically priced about 300 basis points above interchange. The 8.5 and 50 cents, though, is what it is because, unfortunately, that's the way the industry is going right now. But on top of it, with us they get 24-hour customer service for the merchant. They also get 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year customer service for the merchant's customer, along with just being able to sign up who they are as themselves, and you get the ability to pass on a portion of the fees. So of that 8.5%, you can actually pass on 3% to the end user or the customer, if you will. We don't suggest doing anything higher due to the fact that, what we've seen is 3% is typically what works, and that goes into their final ticket price, and therefore bringing them down to about 5.5%, which is
you're talking about surcharging, correct?
I'm sorry.
You're talking about surcharging, correct?
So what it's called is a cash discount, but some people do have called it surcharging in the past.
Okay. Because the reason I ask that is because I've heard that there are certain states where that's not legal. So that's why I was wondering if it's considered surcharging. If not, then I could see why that would be.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about with the surcharging in the 10 states that it's not legal in. But yeah, this is just a cash discount program.
Okay, fantastic. So what kinds of support can we expect if we run into something a little more complicated than normal?
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to expect is you'll have. You'll be able to get us on the phone whenever you'd like. Your merchants can actually can get their support. They actually have a customer service floor directly through the bank. So those guys can absolutely help your merchants out. They typically get back within 24 hours. That's kind of the what they say, but they get back, sometimes in minutes, most of the time barely a few hours. But you'll always be able to call us for support, and we can help you out, walk you through anything you need, go over any questions that may have arisen, whatever you need, man.
Okay. So there's a line for the merchants as well as for the agents. So the agents, exactly. If they have any issues, we can get a hold of you and go from there. That's great to know. What kind of equipment will be available for merchants, and will there be other types of equipment available? Is there any expansion programs as far as equipment goes?
So right now it's just going to be through their sites, e-commerce. 99.9% of high risk is done through e-commerce, which is just going to be a website. But they do have the ability to buy a swiper and or dipper once they get credentials to log in. That's one of the first options that they see. So they'll be able to buy that if they wanted to have a storefront. They can swipe credit cards that way and or dip them, if you will, with the chip. But as of right now, that's kind of what the limitations are.
Okay. So it's basically just e-commerce for right now. In previous conversations we've had, I remember you saying something about something new that may be coming soon. Is that still true?
Yes, we do have point of sale partnerships that we'll be finalizing. So we will have the option to set your merchants up with point of sale systems. That is going to be the cannabis industry only. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the other industries, they don't really have a reason to have them. You know, when you're selling diet pills or anti-aging skin lotion, you know, it's typically sitting in a gigantic room in your house and you're shipping it out from there. So a lot of 99.9% of that stuff is just done through their sites.
Okay. So I think you already touched on this a little bit. When someone's interested and, you know, you go through that application process with them, can you explain how long normally it would take? I know you said it can be the same day, but what is it typically for how long it would take to get someone set up once they've sent in that application?
So when it comes to cannabis and its derivatives, you're going to see at the very most a week. You know, obviously some things fall into place, or some things kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. We'll set that back. You know, if we first talk to the guy on a Friday and we're out of the office, a lot of the times we can get the applications out that same day. Everything from there, once he sends in his first application, is automatically triggered. There's no human eyes or hands on it to get the rest of the stuff out. So once he sends that back with his attached documents, he'll most likely get the other two Saturday. And then once he sends that back, we'll get them credentials Sunday, Monday. But other than, you know, your typical problems, if you will, when it comes to banking holidays and or, you know, working days instead of the Saturdays and Sundays. With Nutra, they do take a little bit longer. You know, you're looking at, and the reason I use Nutra is because it's going to be your most popular. There's a million different sites, there's a million different industries that work in high risk. So on average, those take about 2 weeks. You know, unless the person's just, you know, on their game and very good at what they do, then we can turn them around in 7 to 10 days. But typically you're looking at about a solid 14 days.
Okay. Well, that's not bad considering. I've seen them take longer than that with just a normal account, just because we have issues getting the information back from the merchant themselves. So, yeah, if they're on top of their game, that's actually not a bad wait time.
The good thing is with high risk, not to cut you off, Anthony, is because you always hold the upper hand. These people need you. They can't go anywhere else, literally. The toughest thing, kind of the one thing that's so great, I should say, is the fact that if they don't get you the documents, there's nothing you can do for them. So the ball is almost always in their court. You know, like, hey, you got me the general application. Wonderful. Now I need the other 10 documents on that checklist. Okay, good. I got 7 of them. I need the other 3. Okay, I got another one. I need the other 2. So it's nothing that your abilities can change, you know, other than giving them that peace of mind or trust right out of the gate to where they're going, oh, my God, I'm dying to do business with these guys. You know, that it's not like you're just sitting there kind of twiddling your thumbs. And the reason I say that is because a lot of high-risk purveyors out there, that's what they do. They lead you along. They play a game, and they're really just wasting your time. That's why you've heard the horror stories of, you know, you go after a deal for a month and don't even get it. You know, look, if I don't want the deal, or I should say, if we don't want the deal, we don't need to take the deal. We want people that are going to be willing to work with us. That's what makes high risk easy. People that want to play games and think that they've done it for longer and they know it and they've gone through 12 merchant accounts, we don't want those people, because all they're going to be is a headache. I mean, you guys know how it works, Anthony. No matter what, you can tell the person 7 ways till Sunday that this is going to happen unless you change this. And when it happens, you're still the guy in the wrong. So in order to make our life easier, I want to work with somebody who's willing to make the changes so that our relationships can flourish and go to the next level. And if I do everything right and they do everything right, you know, these guys will have volumes that'll consistently grow, and the rest will be history.
I remember you talking about why you started doing high-risk business. I was wondering if you could tell our agents a little bit about why you started in high risk.
I started in high risk because, unfortunately, the low-risk industry had its way with me, if you will. I was just frustrated and kind of tired and fed up with having to battle, essentially, I hate saying this, a bunch of liars, even though they come in every way, shape, or form, even in high risk. But I liked knowing that I could get somebody and help them out, teach them how to restructure their business, diversify their portfolio, get them to the end goal that they're looking for, so that A, I taught them how to have a sustainable business, B, they put money or they put money in their pocket, which enabled them to give their children a life they've never expected, put food on their table, and that's really where the enjoyment comes. It's not, getting somebody a merchant account is great, but just learning what makes them tick, how they got into the industry, and creating a true friend is really what is the best, because there's not a million of us out there, so you're not battling the agent that's going in every single day on a day-to-day basis, and you really do get to tie down a very strong relationship. And, unfortunately, with the low-risk stuff, the relationship sales are still out there, but they're a lot less. With high-risk stuff, when someone realizes that, God, I've been down and haven't been able to process credit cards for 90 days, and this person came, taught me a couple things I didn't know how to do, got me an account, and I've been up and processing and haven't had to look back, it's very highly unlikely that they're going to go anywhere. They found a home. That's what our expertise is. They don't want to continue searching. And why are they going to search? Because they can't get the volume, or what we call the bandwidth, to process the amount of transactions they want. Well, that's where we come into play. You may not be able to pump $2 million out of the gate, but you can pump $750,000 a month for the first month, and then which we can double the second month, and we could double the third month. But we've got to implement these tools. The bank has to understand that you're willing to make the changes, and they'll be willing to make the changes for you and with you. And that's where our expertise comes in.
Right. Yes, and not to mention, it seems to be more lucrative than the typical merchant account.
That is for sure. That's a definite. You could find somebody who's processing a couple $100,000 at a tire shop, where you might be lucky if you're making a couple $100.
It seems that typically, we normally charge about 25 basis points, and that's on a good occasion. Sometimes it can be a lot less than that, like 10 or 5. And we're, with high risk, it seems like we're talking more than 200 basis points, which is enormous, an enormous change. So I wanted to say that just because I wanted our agents to understand that not only are you going to be able to set up a company that you normally wouldn't be able to, but you'll also be making a lot more money per capita. So definitely something that is going to be a huge advantage for them to be able to get out in the field and actually start making some real money.
Yeah, you'll be able to make a boatload of money. The high risk is just where it is, where it's at. They need you. They can't go anywhere. You've got the solution. You teach them how to keep their business sustainable. All in all, right there, you've got a lifelong customer. And then it's just staying competitive, which is very simple. Everything in the world is ruined by one thing. Everybody that got rich overnight, that built these amazing companies, whether they be credit card processing or not, was greed. I've watched books of business blow up because of greed. I've watched agents fly out the door at other offices I worked at because the people that owned them were too greedy. Greed will get you one thing. It'll get you lonely and starting over. With us, look, I know that, heck, we may have to write some gigantic checks, but that's also because I'm making some great money myself, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. Greed is what ruins it.
Well said. Well, I appreciate that, Lane. Thank you for that explanation, and thanks for being on the call today and taking this time to explain your business and give our agents a better idea of what it is that you do and what we can offer through you. So I wanted to just, extend my thanks for that.
Anytime, Anthony. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and let's make some money. Let's have some fun. Now's the fun part. Let's get out and sell some merchants.